darlings, it's Michaela. So we are going to be talking about the best morning sequence, for weight loss. And so I wanted to talk about this because of how relevant it feels in and of itself, but also how relevant it feels for this moment in time because of how many differing opinions there are on the topic. So what has been expected or understood, I feel like has changed through time, but then even recently there's been, I don't know who's here, but thank you, just debate in terms of the fact that we should be eating as soon as we get up. We should be waiting to eat after we get up. We should be, eating before we exercise, not doing that, eating after, not having coffee. And then there's this additional concern about women over 40 and the impact of cortisol. And so the thing that I would love to share, which is, like, I've had an opinion and a belief about this for some time, but now I just have more understanding. And so if we understand more about how our bodies work, then we have a better chance of making decisions that are actually accurate. So it's great for someone to, hi Stephanie, hi my dear. It's great for someone to, stamp a seal of approval on something, but if you go below it, or if you understand why the body is doing something in particular to begin with, then it just gives you a little more, in my opinion, kind of peace of mind versus feeling like, oh, okay, this is what I should do, so let me chase after this for a while. And oh, wait, shit, that's what I should do now, and now I, head in another direction. So anyway, the thing that I want to bring up is this phenomenon called the dawn effect. And so this is something that fat burners and myself have talked about for quite some time. And essentially what it is it's a hormonal configuration that happens before we start to get up. It helps us upon waking. So essentially it's a hormonal shift of delicious cocktail of cortisol, human growth hormone, adrenaline, and glucagon. So what this does is it raises blood sugar, it raises fat burning, lipolysis, it raises alertness and energy, and indirectly it raises insulin because of the blood sugar rise. Okay, great. The thing that's really important to know about this is that this configuration, this increase, this release of particular hormones isn't, hi Deborah, hi my dear, it's not random, it's for a purpose. And so basically everything in our bodies is meant for survival and if conditions are conducive to reproduce. So whatever's going on hormonally typically is to make sure we don't die or that we can feed ourselves, which is what this is for. So basically it's an adaptation. It's for us to be able to get up and go, to hunt, to get food. So in prehistoric times, we didn't have a way to store food or refrigerate food. So basically, however long a dead animal lasts, I don't know. But because food was scarce, my assumption is that that means it was small, which means that we need to go get it frequently. So this configuration essentially gets us going before we eat. It gives us energy to go find food first. So when you wake up, you have this more primitive, primal, default setting. Obviously, you don't need to go hunt. Yay, hi Seamus, hi my dear. You don't need to go look for food living in your whatever dwelling, probably, if you are on this live, you don't. Like at most you need to like wander into another room and open something. But that's not what we were designed for. We were designed to be able to go find something, get something, and with that, we needed energy. So we're not primed to eat upon waking. We're primed to move. So what's the best thing to do in the morning? It's to exercise. And so if you're kind of mapping out your day, how do I do these things best? Exercise would be number one because of your makeup. So, you know, in addition to the fact that your Pilates class is at 6 in the morning, or that, you know, you love to work out when nobody's up, or like whatever, exercising first thing in the morning is kind of how we're made. So then additionally, what that will do is that will kind of burn that shit off. So it'll burn off this extra blood sugar. It will burn off essentially cortisol. The thing that I also love about our bodies is that they're so logical. And this is, I take such comfort in this. It's like I know like a lot about like 4 things having to do with the body. Weight loss is one of them. Pain is one of them. Cellular health is one of them. Preventing injury is one of them. Power is one of them. Maybe we're getting more than 4. But anyway, but when you understand how certain things work, then it's like, oh, like I'll just do this. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, this is it. Thanks. So cortisol and adrenaline are stress hormones. So we don't often think about adrenaline so much. Maybe people think about that with coffee. This is a little digression and I'm coming right back. But cortisol and adrenaline are stress hormones. And so people think stress, bad. We should just not trigger these things. Well, newsflash, they are in us for reasons, this being one of them, the dawn effect, which is there to help us go get food. But the deal is, if we now know cortisol and adrenaline are stress hormones, they increase blood sugar. This is why we don't like them. They increase blood sugar and with it insulin, and it often stores fat in our belly, in our abdominal region. But the thing that's so cool about them is that they're made to give us access to energy. They're not there because we're having a shitty day, or we're a shitty person, or we have too much stress in our lives. It's there to give us energy. So the coolest thing is that if we actually use that energy, then we don't store it. That's what it's there for. So like a little pro tip, if you feel a pop of stress, so beyond the dawn effect that we're talking about right now, if you feel a pop of stress ever, move your body. So if it's just like, oh my God, I just, you know, I'm so nervous about this thing that's happening or not happening, or I'm worried about blah, and you feel this kind of like jolt or surge of cortisol and or adrenaline, move your body. So whether that's like, I'm gonna do jumping jacks, I'm gonna like go up and down the stairs a bunch of times, I'm in bed, I'm gonna like flutter my legs and like squeeze my butt cheeks, like I'm gonna do something kind of like vigorous and fast, that moves and uses the sugar from that those hormones. And the thing that's really awesome about it is that it will also make you feel calmer. So I invite you to use that. But anyway, so that's why these hormones are there. They're not shitty luck. They're not just like, you know, a bad lot in life. They're there because we're dealing with stress, or we're dealing with this predisposed biological adaptation for survival to get us up and going, to have energy and wherewithal to go get food to feed us and our family. Okay? So anyway, so morning sequence, exercising first thing in the morning, like at the very least, don't eat, because this little hormonal cocktail actually creates a more an insulin resistant environment. So the worst time, like we can be insulin sensitive or insulin resistant, which means that our bodies require more insulin to do the same job. The more insulin you have in your system, the less you are using your own body fat for fuel. This is what we help fat burners do. Step 1, become insulin sensitive or more insulin sensitive. So when you're insulin resistant, your body naturally requires more insulin. This is where we like go on the path to diabetes. But having an insulin resistant environment just by like your wiring and the time in relationship to when you wake up, basically when you eat, if you ate first thing in the morning, you roll out of bed, you go and have a breakfast sandwich, basically your body will be more insulin resistant. And what that means is you will store more of your food as fat and you will have less access to the energy that it could provide. So that's like a double whammy. So we have the opportunity to exercise and we have the negative impact of eating if we do that, period. Additionally, coffee is something, if you have an insulin resistant setup, coffee can actually be quite negative in the morning. And so you want to wait at least 90 minutes to have this hormonal profile diminish. Okay? If you have an insulin sensitive body, like fat burners do, like a lot of people do, or a more insulin sensitive body, which means that you're not like hungry immediately after you eat. You're not storing fat all the time. Like maybe you're here because everything is great, or maybe you're here because you are struggling with weight. Typically when people struggle with weight, they have a more insulin resistant makeup. And typically if weight loss is easier or a weight that they desire to be at is easily maintained, they tend to have a more insulin sensitive body. If you crave a ton of carbohydrates, burning sugar and having insulin resistance is kind of like cousins, like siblings, like very close, related. We'll just say that. So best morning sequence, and then I'm probably just gonna like ramble about something after this. We wanna move first, and that's just like based on our makeup. And so the thing that's so fantastic is to leverage what you have, leverage your predisposition, because then whatever follows is easy, comfortable, natural, versus kind of fighting an uphill battle. Delay your first meal by 2 to 5 plus hours. Some fat burners eat once a day. I ate today at 1:30, actually. 2. I ate at 2. Anyway, when you do that, then you just get all this business out of your body, and then like double whammy, if you want to use it, you will actually potentially have more access to more energy. I'll go back to the hormonal makeup as well. That's interesting to note. And then if you know that you struggle with weight, if you know that you have a more insulin resistant situation in your body, then you might want to deliberately delay coffee if you do drink it by 90 minutes. And so again, fat burners will tend to just like hold off a while for their coffee, but they have insulin sensitive bodies for the most part, unless they have like, they come in with something hardcore health-wise. Anyway, and then the last thing I just want to say is that this is maybe just an interesting thing. So maybe I'll just reiterate this and then I'll say something interesting and then I'll talk about something more. So best morning sequence, we want to move first. We want to delay our first meal because we have an insulin resistant environment based on our biological makeup. The fact that you are human creates this situation. And then if we're questionable, about having an insulin resistant makeup, we want to delay our coffee by an hour and a half. Okay? And if you're like, everything's great, I am in tip top everything, then like have your coffee as you desire. But the thing that I also want to say is that these hormones should help with energy. And so ideally, we're drinking coffee for the taste. We're not drinking it for energy. We're using our body for energy, or potentially some of these hormones for energy. All right? But anyway, it's kind of like when you interrupt this system, I feel like, part of it, it creates more of a fat burning environment. So human growth hormone is raised, glucagon is raised. These are things that help with fat burning, that help, and then again, that help with alertness and energy. So if you kind of let your body do its thing, you get like more of what you want, which typically is like energy and reduced weight. Okay? So that is the moral of the story. So when people I don't understand when there's, talk about you need to eat as soon as you're up. And some of that discussion has been about cortisol. But it's like, well, actually, to reduce cortisol, moving is really useful. I don't know why eating would be useful when we have cortisol. And so, anyway, if anyone has any things to say about that. The other thing I'll just say is that essentially, the more you can hang in there between meals, when we're desperate for food, that just signals insulin resistant. When you kind of can't allow the line to be let out, it's such a beneficial thing for your body to have that space. Every time we eat, we're telling our cells to divide. Every time we eat, so we speed up aging. Every time we eat, we are having insulin be released into our body. And the more that happens, the more insulin resistant we become, and the more we store that food as fat, the less access we have to our own energy. So in many respects, it's like doing less, letting our body kind of do more. That doesn't mean that we never eat, but it means that we give ourselves a moment. And even, I will say this, even if you are someone who is very food dependent, for shame, and you work out a lot, or you're very concerned about your muscles, there's a certain amount of time that your body needs to reset before it can undergo protein synthesis. So even for people that might be concerned about their mass diminishing as a result of eating less, or eating less often, really is what I'm talking about, your body needs 4 hours between meals to hit a certain amount of protein for you to be able to create more muscle. So it's if we're always eating, or eating every 2 hours, however that is, if we don't give ourselves at least 4, we don't have that ability to kind of reset and then create this process again. So that's just one thing about muscle mass creation that either sometimes women over 40 are very concerned about, or people that are, aiming to build a body that's impressive, might be concerned about not eating enough. But really, it's more about eating enough, but eating less often. Yay. Hi, Leanne. Hi, my dear. And then the other thing I just wanted to say, and I think this is really interesting, and fat burners know this more. So timing, when people talk about timing not mattering with food or time of day, I highly disagree. And it's again for this element of insulin resistance. So basically, our bodies are more insulin resistant in the morning. Now we know this. This is why we should not eat first thing. And also, it would be even more detrimental to have more carbohydrates than not. That's going to make the situation even worse. So more protein and fat would be better, but it's still just not ideal to eat first thing. But we also have an insulin resistant environment when the sun goes down. And so there's a relationship between melatonin, which, like, if you've ever wanted to, get back on a sleep schedule or have had challenges going to bed, melatonin is something that starts to prepare us for rest. That happens when the sun starts to set. And so that environment, or the presence of melatonin, creates a more insulin resistant environment. So when you eat after the sun is down, again, your body stores more of what you eat as fat, and you have less access to the energy that it can offer. So it's like, we are so connected to the sun. We're so connected to, like, I guess I'll just say the sun. I was going to say the earth, but it's the sun. And so our metabolism is highest when the sun is highest, and it is lowest when the sun is low. And so if that's something, even if you have dinner with your family every night at 6 or 7 or whatever it is, even if you have more of your food earlier in the day, that's really helpful, just based on how we work, just based on how your metabolism works, whether you're burning sugar or fat. Okay? So anyway, that's it, really. I hope that was useful. I feel like this is something that's been flying around, and I didn't really understand why. And, like, here's something that I'm just going to piece together. With this concern about not eating because of cortisol. So cortisol raises blood sugar. So it's like, all right, so if you need energy, if you need access to energy, cortisol can rise. So I think that was the argument for eating. But as a fat burner, it's like, well, we have access to energy, so we don't need to raise cortisol. So we kind of sidestep this. If you are someone that is either looking for just a better approach to weight loss or kind of a simpler way to live, just based on how we work, fat burning might be for you. So if you are a woman, especially over 40, who would like to lose 8 to 15 pounds in a month, who would like this shit to just be simpler, and for you to have to think less about what you're doing, to actually do less in order to lose, I'm going to attach a sugar quiz at the bottom of this. But the thing that's great about it is that, like, it's so much calmer. Like, we just eat less often, not even less food necessarily, if you don't have a lot of weight to lose, but we eat less often. And what that ends up doing is it just creates a better hormonal balance. It lets us kind of like run and do what we're doing. It feels like, this is just an example, right? So the dawn effect is just one way that our body behaves for survival. And when you're burning fat, it's super easy to not eat in the morning, to work out fasted, to wait 2 to 5 hours, to wait for our coffee because we don't depend on it for energy. And so, again, whether all of this just seems super straightforward and easy as a sugar burner, if that is your makeup, that's great. And if you're like, I'd love to do these things, Michaela, but there's no frickin' way I'm going to the gym without eating something, like I would keel over. And so it's like, that doesn't have to be the case. And actually, it would be far more natural for it to not be the case. So if you would like to change your body in ways that really just work with how it works, fat burning would be a really great consideration. Okay, I'm going to leave that quiz. I hope you check it out if you've yet to. Be in touch with any questions. I hope this was amazing. I don't have more to say. Thank you for being here. I hope this was useful. And Happy New Year, everybody. I will see you on the other side. All right, love to you. Until next time.